Welcome, everyone, to Fr.Dave in the kitchen here at Most Holy Trinity Parish. We had such a good time making our slumgullion stew last week. We thought we would try something for Lent, which is going to be macaroni and cheese. Now, you could do it the easy way with the old Kraft, or just put a little water in there and mix it up, but we're not going to do that. We're going to use the actual elbow macaroni and some nice cheese and some milk, flour, and some butter. It's going to go into making this. So as our water is boiling, I'm going to put our noodles, our elbow macaroni, into that. Let it start cooking. Okay. I'm going to stir it just a little bit. Don't want it to be sticking together. So as we're doing this, I thought I'd share a little bit about Lent in the medieval period. You know, we're going to have 40 days of Lent. Of course, the word Lent is an old English word for lengthening. So Lent comes in the springtime, the days get longer, and so that's where we get that term of Lent. Another word for Lent is quadragesima. Now, that's not a rock album put out by The Who. That is a term for the 40 days of fasting that go before Easter. Now, if you actually know what song I'm referring to or what album from The Who, put it into the comments, because I'd like to know if we have any Who fans, watching. But during those 40 days, of course, we're imitating the 40 days of fast of the Lord. You know, he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights before, and he was tempted by Satan, but at the beginning of his ministry. And so we fast for these 40 days in imitation of what the Lord did, but also in preparation for our own spiritual well-being. But if you go back to the medieval period, the people would fast for the whole 40 days, and they would eat pretty much only vegetables and bread and water. Now, interesting, one of the things they could add to that for the drink would be beer mixed with water. So how much water, I guess, would depend on the person who was doing the mixing. But they would do that for the whole 40 days of Lent. And so it was very, very austere, very different from what we do with our mostly giving up one thing for Lent for the 40 days and fasting in a special way, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, fast and abstinence, and then finally, every Friday of Lent, abstaining from meat. So there's a poem from the 13th century, and it's a Spanish poem, and it's called The Book of Good Love. And in that book, it's kind of like the Canterbury Tales. There's several tales in it. It's meant to be kind of comic. And in it, there is Lady Lent, who wakes up in the springtime, and she does battle with Lord Flesh. And so by the time we come around to Easter week, Lady Lent has conquered Lord Flesh and has him in prison. And so they bring in one of the Franciscan friars who is going to hear Lord Flesh's confession, and he's going to give him a penance. And so the penance is going to be for the 7 days that he's there for the Easter. And so the friar is going to say, okay, Lord Flesh, so on day 1, you're going to eat nothing but chickpeas and oil, and these are going to be for the 7 deadly sins, for things like gluttony, sloth, avarice, anger, those things. He's getting a penance. So the foods that he's going to eat in penitence are going to reflect the foods that the people ate during Lent back then. So the chickpeas for the first day. The second day was going to be leafy vegetables. The third day was going to be porridge, or oatmeal is what we would call it. And then the day after that was going to be spinach, nothing but spinach and only a little. And after that was going to be beans. And then Friday would be bread and water. And finally, there would be just, a mix of bread and water. So you better take a second to stir the pot. I see it's bubbling. Yeah, I don't want them stuck together. Yeah, I think macaroni and cheese is a good meal for our Lenten days. I'm not sure what you're giving up for Lent, but things we can do is to give up meat definitely for Fridays, but maybe add it to Wednesday and make something like mac and cheese to be our meal for that day. For Fridays in Lent, as a matter of fact, through the rest of the year, sometimes people don't realize that even though the church said we don't have to abstain from meat every Friday, the rule changed so that we still need to make some kind of sacrifice. So we still have to fast from something. So it could be candy for the day, maybe eating between meals, maybe skip a meal. But we didn't go from abstaining from meat to doing nothing at all. So there still should be some spiritual practice in there for Fridays. But let's take another look at this here. Looks like our pasta is ready to go, so I'm going to turn off the heat for now. We're going to put it back on to medium for our other ingredients. We're going to put this into the strainer or colander. There we go. And we'll just let that drain. Whoops, let's see here. Maybe we'll just get this last little bit out of there since we're in Lent. We don't want to waste it. Okay. Set this off to the side here. And we're going to go to some medium heat. And okay, so now into our empty pot, we're going to put 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate, but we'll go with it. So we have our butter here, melting away, and we're going to move to 1/3 cup of baking flour. Okay. And 2 1/2 cups of milk. Whoops. Here's our 1. Here comes number 2. And here we go for 1/2. Okay, we're going to do some stirring here. I guess I'll put this to the sink. Now, in those days of Lent in the medieval times, if you got caught breaking the fast, not following the rules, some of the things that could happen would be prison. So that could be a tough thing to have happen. Another would be you could be flogged. And finally, one of the more interesting is they could have your teeth pulled out. So they're pretty severe on following these rules, much more so than us. Going back to our medieval poem of the Book of Good Love, after Lord Flesh has done his penance, eating his vegetarian meals and those things, he gets back out of prison because it's after Easter, and Lady Lent retreats and goes back to sleep, waiting to come back again for the next Lent to do battle again with Lord Flesh. So we want to keep our focus on our own practices in Lent and making sure we're really looking forward to Easter and getting ready for those special days of Triduum and the Easter season. In the medieval days and later, and actually even earlier, they were doing some of the things that we do. You might think that having things like veggie burgers or veggie pizza, that's something very new. But if you go back and look up some of those things that they would make during Lent centuries ago, they would take almonds and different kinds of vegetables and they would grind them up and they would make something that would look like a hard-boiled egg. Or they would make something that would look like a piece of chicken and try to flavor them in different ways using all the different ingredients that would be okay for Lent and making different foods. I've actually eaten some of that by myself, some of those things. The veggie burgers, I actually found there's one called Don't Have a Cow, and it's actually pretty good. It comes out pretty much like almost like a regular burger. So if you're, for whatever reason, you want to go that way, or you kind of need to go that way for a while for your diet, there's things now that you can get that are actually pretty good. It's not going to be exactly like the others, but some good stuff. Okay, well, this is looking pretty good, our little sauce. So we're going to start adding the cheese. So we have that all nicely cut up here in our little bowl. I guess if you're having this for a meal, you might, if you want to get a vegetable, you might want to get something green like peas or something, so you're not everything white or yellow in the meal. That's if you like peas. Okay. Well, we're going to stir in our mix to get the cheese melted. When I was studying in Rome, we used to go to Mass every day through Lent at a different church. And so they would call it the station churches. So the Pope does that every year. He goes to about 40 different churches. He goes all the major basilicas and pretty much all the main historic churches through Lent. So we get up very early in the morning, get out walking. We'd walk out into the city, probably getting on our way about 6, have the Mass at 7, and get to our college, for our first classes around 8 or so in the morning. And that was a great experience. It was so interesting to, catch up on the history of each different church and just enjoy getting out into the city and making that part of our Lenten journey. I had the one year I was able to be the person who had to bring the lectionary, or the book with all the readings in it, to all the Masses. So that really made sure I wasn't going to miss any, because if I didn't show up, they weren't going to have the readings for the Mass. So I have my lectionary, I still have it, and I have it marked in there the year that I used that in the station churches. So I don't know, it's kind of maybe it's a third-class relic after being around all those saints. So, well, our cheese sauce is to a very nice consistency, nice thick, ready to go. So we're ready to add in the pasta, and it won't be too long after that. We'll be ready to have some macaroni and cheese. So here we have our nice colander with our elbow macaroni. Whoops, don't want that going in. All right. Whoa, here we go. So we're going to get all that in there. I'll kind of separate a little bit, and we'll start to stir. There's another tradition in Rome started by one of the saints. It's called the Seven Church Walk. And so you would go to the 4 major basilicas, and you go also to the Church of Saint Sebastian and the Holy Cross, and one other. I'm kind of forgetting it right now. But it takes most of the day to do it. So it's a really good Lenten pilgrimage. If you happen to be there, don't have to be during Lent. You could do that. Just look it up. And if you want to get out for a great walk, and you go by lots of little things like restaurants and stuff. So I'm going to turn that down. I don't think we need more heat. Okay, I think we got it. So we're going to give this a little bit of a try here. There's some good looking macaroni and cheese. Tastes very, very good. Wow. Well, thanks for being with us. This opportunity to bake a Lenten meal. We're probably going to do a couple more. We hope you'll be able to join us, and we'll have some more things to say about Lent and our spiritual journey. But may the Lord bless you and your families with his peace, his love, and what a great preparation for the upcoming feasts of Easter. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.